The financial advisor's face went white as he turned the monitor toward me. His hands were actually trembling. "Mr. Bennett," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "this portfolio, it's been actively managed and reinvested since 1989. The Apple stock alone." He paused, swallowing hard. "Sir, you're looking at $89 million." I stared at the screen. The numbers blurred together. $89 million. But let me back up, because I need to tell you how a 7-year-old retired high school principal ended up in a Merrill Lynch office in downtown Vancouver on a gray January morning, clutching a water-stained notebook I'd found in a storage locker I'd almost forgotten I had. My name is Thomas Bennett. For 35 years, I was the principal of Sir Winston Churchill Secondary in Vancouver. Before my nephew Marcus and his financial advisor wife Sarah took everything from me, I thought I had a decent retirement ahead. A modest pension, a paid-off house in Kitsilano, some savings. I thought I was set. I married Margaret when I was 25. She was an artist and graphic designer, one of the early adopters of digital design back in the mid-82nds when most people didn't even own computers. We built a good life in Vancouver. I worked my way up from vice principal to principal. Margaret freelanced, did design work for tech companies, local businesses, the occasional corporate branding project. We never had children of our own. Margaret had endometriosis. After years of trying, we accepted it and poured our energy into our careers and each other. My brother David and his wife died in a car accident on the Sea to Sky Highway when their son, Marcus, was 8. It was 1995. Margaret and I didn't hesitate. We took Marcus in, raised him as our own. He lived with us in our Kitsilano house, went to the school where I was principal, graduated, went to UBC for business. We paid for everything. His tuition, his residence, his books. We wanted to give him the life his parents would have wanted for him. Margaret died of a sudden heart attack 10 years ago. She was only 57. We were walking along Kitsilano Beach one Sunday morning in April, and she just collapsed, gone before the ambulance arrived. It shattered me. Marcus was 27 then, working at a bank downtown. He'd just started dating Sarah, a woman he'd met at a financial planning seminar. After Margaret's funeral, I threw myself back into work. 2 more years until retirement. I kept busy, attended every school event, stayed late marking papers, anything to avoid going home to that empty house filled with Margaret's paintings and design portfolios. Marcus and Sarah got married a year after Margaret died. I paid for half the wedding, about $35,000. It was at the Fairmont Hotel, Vancouver, very elegant. Sarah's family paid the other half. I wanted to honor Margaret's memory by supporting Marcus. He was the closest thing we had to a son. I retired at 65. The school threw me a big party, gave me a plaque, the whole thing. My pension wasn't huge, about $48,000 a year, but combined with my savings and the equity in my house, I figured I could travel a bit, maybe volunteer, enjoy life. That's when things started to shift. Sarah began showing up at my house more often, always with a laptop and folders. Marcus would call, but Sarah would be the one doing most of the talking. "Tom," she'd say, using that professional voice she probably used with clients. "We need to talk about your financial situation. You're 65 now. Have you thought about estate planning? Tax optimization? Marcus is your heir, right? We should make sure everything's structured properly." I should have questioned it more, but Sarah was a certified financial planner. She worked for one of the big firms, RBC Dominion Securities. She seemed to know what she was talking about. And Marcus was family. I trusted him. Over about 18 months, Sarah had me sign papers. Lots of papers. She'd spread them across my dining room table, explaining quickly using terms like inter vivos, trust, and joint tenancy with right of survivorship and power of attorney for property. "This is standard," she'd say, her pen pointing to signature lines. "Everyone at your age should have these documents. We're just protecting your assets, making sure Marcus can help if you ever need it." I signed a power of attorney. I signed documents adding Marcus as joint owner on my bank accounts. I signed papers transferring my house into a trust where Marcus was the trustee. Sarah said it was for tax efficiency, to avoid probate fees when I eventually passed. Then came my 66th birthday. Marcus and Sarah invited me to dinner at Blue Water Cafe in Yaletown. I thought we were celebrating. Instead, Marcus slid a manila envelope across the table before our appetizers even arrived. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it, Uncle Tom." It was a legal petition. My own nephew was filing to have me declared mentally incapable of managing my affairs. The words jumped out at me. Cognitive decline, impaired judgment, require guardianship. I couldn't breathe. The restaurant suddenly felt too hot, too loud. "Marcus, what the hell is this?" Sarah leaned forward, her voice calm and clinical. "Tom, we're concerned. You've been forgetting things, making questionable financial decisions. Last month, you thought you'd paid your property tax, but you hadn't. We had to cover it. I was 2 weeks early. I paid it the next week." "You're getting confused," Marcus said, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. "We think it's best if I take over managing your finances, just temporarily, until we figure out what's going on." "There's nothing going on. I'm fine." "Your behavior right now proves our point," Sarah said smoothly. "You're getting agitated over a simple conversation. Tom, we're trying to help. I hired a lawyer, Frank Morrison, someone I found through the Law Society of BC's referral service, because I suddenly realized I couldn't access my bank accounts, the ones that were joint with Marcus. When I tried to use my debit card, it was declined. I called the bank. They told me Marcus had transferred the funds to properly manage the estate. Estate? I wasn't dead. "Where's my money?" I demanded when I called Marcus. "It's being managed properly, Uncle Tom. In the trust, like we discussed, Sarah's firm is handling it. Their fees are standard. Standard fees. From my own money, I had about $380,000 in savings. When I finally got Frank to request bank records, only $52,000 was left." "Where did it go?" I asked Frank. He showed me the statements. Financial management fees, investment consulting, estate planning services. Sarah's firm charged you $328,000 over the past year. For what? According to these invoices, comprehensive portfolio restructuring, tax optimization, consulting, estate planning. But Tom, these fees are astronomical. This is fraud. The court hearing was in September at the BC Supreme Court in Vancouver. I sat there in my best suit, the gray one I'd worn to retirement dinners and school ceremonies, though it was getting a bit snug around the middle. Sarah had hired Christina Park, one of Vancouver's top estate lawyers. Frank was completely outmatched. "Your Honor," Park said, standing in a perfectly tailored navy suit, "we have substantial evidence of Mr. Bennett's declining mental capacity, bank statements showing he's forgotten to pay bills, documentation from his former employer indicating concerns about his memory during his final year before retirement." That last part was a lie. I'd had excellent performance reviews, but Park had somehow obtained a letter from the current principal, someone I barely knew, saying there had been informal concerns about my organizational skills. Completely fabricated. Furthermore, Park continued, Mr. Bennett has become paranoid and hostile. His nephew Marcus, who he raised as his own son, has tried to help him, but Mr. Bennett has responded with accusations of theft. This is textbook behavior for someone experiencing cognitive decline and developing dementia. Frank tried. He really did. But he was a solo practitioner going up against a Bay Street-level lawyer. He had no expert witnesses, no investigators, no resources. The worst part was when Marcus testified. "Tell the court about your uncle's recent behavior," Park prompted. Marcus's voice was steady. "He's changed. He forgets conversations we just had. He accused Sarah of stealing from him, which is insane. She's been trying to help organize his finances. Last month, he called me at 2 a.m. asking where Margaret was. His wife died 10 years ago, Your Honor. He's getting confused about basic facts. Complete lies. I'd never called him at 2 a.m. I knew exactly when Margaret died, but Marcus delivered it perfectly, even managing to look sad and concerned. Justice Reynolds reviewed the documents I'd signed. The power of attorney, the trust papers, the joint account authorizations. My signature was on everything. Mr. Bennett, the judge said, I understand this is difficult, but based on the evidence presented, I'm ruling that you require assistance managing your financial affairs. Marcus Bennett is hereby appointed as your committee. All assets will be managed through the trust structure already established. Your Honor, this is wrong, I said, standing up. Frank tried to get me to sit down. Marcus is lying. Sarah is stealing from me. Mr. Bennett, outbursts like this support the findings. Please sit down. I won't sit down. This is my life they're taking. The gavel came down. We're adjourned. Mr. Bennett, I strongly suggest you cooperate with your nephew for your own well-being. Outside the courthouse, I confronted Marcus. How could you do this? I raised you. I loved you like a son. He wouldn't look at me. Sarah answered instead. Tom, you need to accept reality. You're not well. Marcus is taking care of you now. You'll receive a monthly allowance. You'll be fine. Monthly allowance from my own money? From the trust's money, she corrected, which Marcus manages now, as the court ordered. Over the next month, I watched my life disappear. My house in Kitsilano, worth at least $1.9 million in Vancouver's market, was sold. Marcus said it was too much house for me, and the equity needed to be properly invested. He sold it for $1.95 million, but I later learned the buyer was a numbered company connected to Sarah's business partner. They flipped it 6 months later for $2.4 million. My pension, my savings, everything was now controlled by Marcus. He moved me into a basement suite in East Vancouver. Not the dangerous part, but definitely not the nice part. 650 square feet below a family of 6. I could hear every footstep, every argument, every dinner above me. He deposited $1,400 a month into a new account he'd opened in my name. That should cover everything, Marcus said when he dropped off the keys. Rent's paid. You've got enough for groceries and utilities. Try to budget carefully, Uncle Tom. Budget carefully. I'd gone from a 3-bedroom Kitsilano house and a comfortable retirement to budgeting $1,400 a month at 66 years old. The first weeks in that basement suite, I barely functioned. I'd wake up on the pull-out couch and forget where I was. Then reality would crash back. My nephew, the boy I'd raised after his parents died, had systematically robbed me and used the legal system to do it. I tried to appeal. Frank said we could, but it would cost money I didn't have. Tom, unless you've got resources I don't know about, I don't see how we fight this. Sarah covered every angle. The documentation is airtight. They planned this perfectly. So I sat in that basement suite and felt my life crumble. 66 years old, broke, alone. No wife, no family, no home, no dignity. I stopped shaving regularly, stopped cooking real meals. I'd buy the cheapest groceries at No Frills and eat standing at the counter. What was the point of pretending life was normal? One evening in late December, I got a notice from the storage facility where I'd kept some boxes. The unit was 3 months overdue. Marcus had been paying it from my account, but apparently he'd stopped. I had 30 days to clear it out or they'd auction the contents. I took the bus to the storage vault facility in Richmond. It was freezing, raining, and I didn't have a car anymore. Marcus had sold my 2015 Toyota Camry, said I didn't need it. The storage unit was small, 5x5. I'd kept it for years, just boxes of old stuff from the house that I couldn't bear to throw out. Margaret's art supplies, old school yearbooks, photo albums. I started going through boxes, trying to figure out what to keep and what to throw away when you're living in 650 square feet. In a box labeled Margaret's studio stuff, I found her old portfolio notebooks. She used to keep meticulous records of her freelance projects, clients, invoices. At the back of one notebook, dated 1989, there was a section titled Personal Investments. Margaret's neat handwriting filled several pages. Apple computer stock purchase. 500 shares at $38. Share. January 1989. Certificate number A4729384. Hold long term. Microsoft stock purchase 300 shares at $52. Share. March 1989. Certificate number mate 293847. Hold long term. Real estate investment. Co-ownership 15%. In Richmond Commercial Plaza with Janet Wong and David Chen. Purchase price $240,000. My portion. Generates monthly rental income. Details with Thornton and Associates, property lawyers. Below that, a note in her handwriting. For retirement. Don't touch until you're at least 65 or if you ever really need it. These are our safety net, my love. Trust me. M. My hands started shaking. Margaret had investments. She'd never mentioned stocks or real estate. I knew she freelanced and made decent money. But this, I pulled out my phone and Googled Apple stock. It had split multiple times since 1989. Those 500 shares at $38 were now. I couldn't even calculate it. Tens of thousands of shares worth current prices. At 8 a.m. the next morning, I was standing outside Thornton and Associates in downtown Vancouver when they opened. The receptionist looked surprised to see me, this old man in a worn rain jacket, holding a water-damaged notebook. I need to speak to someone about a property investment from 1989. My wife, Margaret Bennett, was a partial owner. She passed away 10 years ago. The receptionist made some calls. 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from Robert Thornton himself, a senior partner in his 60s. Mr. Bennett, he said, looking at his computer, I'm glad you found us. We've been trying to reach you for years. Letters to your old address kept being returned. What do you mean? The Richmond Plaza property. Your wife's 15% ownership has been generating rental income. We've been depositing it into the account she specified, but we lost contact with you after your address changed. How much are we talking about? The account currently holds about $1.2 million in accumulated rents. But Mr. Bennett, there's more. The plaza was sold last year. There was a bidding war between developers. Your 15% share of the sale price is $4.3 million. We've been trying to find you to release those funds. I couldn't speak. Margaret, 10 years after her death, she was still taking care of me. And the stock certificates? I asked, my voice shaking. Apple and Microsoft. From 1989. Robert made a call. Let me connect you with Merrill Lynch. They handle estate securities. That's how I ended up at the financial advisor's office, watching him calculate the value of stocks Margaret had bought 35 years ago and never told me about. The Apple stock, with splits and reinvested dividends, is worth approximately $71 million, he said slowly. The Microsoft, another $13 million. Combined with the real estate proceeds and accumulated rental income, Mr. Bennett, you have approximately $89.5 million. Tears streamed down my face. Margaret. My brilliant, thoughtful Margaret, planning for a future she'd never see. Mr. Bennett, are you all right? I wiped my eyes. I need to use this money. Immediately. I need the best lawyer in Vancouver. He smiled gently. I think I can help with that. 3 days later, I was in the office of Jennifer Zhao, one of BC's most feared litigators. Her retainer was $175,000. I paid it without hesitation. Tell me everything, she said. I told her every detail. The manipulation, the fraudulent incompetency claim, how Sarah had used her position as a financial advisor to steal from me while making it look legitimate, how Marcus had betrayed the uncle who raised him. Jennifer didn't interrupt. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. This is going to be very satisfying to dismantle, she finally said. First, we're hiring a private investigator. Then, you're getting full neurological and psychological evaluations from the best doctors in Vancouver. Then, we're auditing every transaction Sarah's firm made. And then, Mr. Bennett, we're going to destroy their case so completely they'll wish they'd never touched your money. How long? 4 months, maybe 5. We need to be thorough. I also hired Michael Chen, a forensic accountant specializing in financial fraud. What he uncovered made my blood boil. Sarah's firm had charged me $328,000 in fees for services that should have cost maybe $15,000. She'd created fake invoices, phantom consultations, inflated hours. She'd essentially embezzled over $300,000 while I was signing papers I didn't understand. The Richmond Plaza sale money? Marcus knew about it. He'd intercepted the letters from Thornton and Associates. He was planning to claim it once I was safely declared incompetent and unable to challenge anything. The neurological evaluations came back perfect. Dr. Amanda Patel, Dr. James Liu, and Dr. Sarah Okonjo all certified. I had zero cognitive impairment. Sharp, articulate, fully capable. The concerned letter from my former school? Fabricated. The current principal had never written it. Someone in Sarah's network had forged it on school letterhead. "We file next week," Jennifer said in March. "Emergency hearing to vacate the committee order. Then criminal charges. Sarah's losing her CFP designation. Marcus is going to jail. And you're getting everything back, plus damages. I want one more thing. Name it. I want it public. Everyone who saw me humiliated in that courtroom needs to see them exposed." Jennifer smiled. "I can arrange that." The emergency hearing was set for April 9th, again before Justice Reynolds. Jennifer made sure the media knew to attend. Globe and Mail, Vancouver Sun, CBC, Global News. Marcus and Sarah walked in looking confident. Why wouldn't they be? They'd won before. They had millions. They thought I was still living on $1,400 a month in that basement suite. They didn't know about Margaret's investments. They didn't know I could afford Jennifer Zhao. I sat at my lawyer's table, clean-shaven, in a new suit. Marcus's eyes went wide when he saw me. Sarah whispered urgently to Christina Park. Justice Reynolds entered. We stood. "We're here on an emergency motion to vacate the committee order," Jennifer began. "Your Honor, this case represents elder abuse and financial fraud. The petitioners, Marcus Bennett and Sarah Bennett, systematically defrauded Mr. Thomas Bennett of over $3.6 million while claiming to protect him." Christina Park jumped up. "Your Honor, this is outrageous. The previous court was misled by fabricated evidence," Jennifer cut her off. "Evidence we can now prove was false. Your Honor, I'd like to call Dr. Amanda Patel." Dr. Patel testified about my neurological evaluation. Then Dr. Liu. Then Dr. Okonjo. All confirmed I was cognitively normal, no signs of dementia or impairment whatsoever. "These evaluations were conducted 3 weeks ago," Jennifer said. "Mr. Bennett's condition hasn't changed. He was competent in September, and he's competent now. The original diagnosis was a lie." Then Michael Chen presented his forensic audit. Every inflated fee, every phantom consultation, every fraudulent transaction laid out in detail. I watched Sarah's face lose color. Christina Park was taking furious notes. "Furthermore," Jennifer continued, "we have evidence that Mrs. Bennett paid $15,000 to obtain a forged letter from Sir Winston Churchill Secondary. The actual principal never wrote it. We have his sworn affidavit." She called the investigator who'd tracked down the forger, a paralegal who'd been desperate for money and had agreed to create the fake letterhead document. "Your Honor," Jennifer said, "we're requesting immediate vacation of the committee order, return of all assets, and referral to Crown Counsel for criminal prosecution. We're also filing civil suit for fraud, elder abuse, conversion, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. We're seeking full restitution plus $5 million in punitive damages." Justice Reynolds reviewed the documents in silence. The courtroom was packed. Reporters filled the gallery. Finally, the judge spoke. "I've reviewed this evidence. The neurological evaluations clearly demonstrate Mr. Bennett is fully competent. The financial analysis reveals systematic fraud. The forged documentation is deeply disturbing." She looked directly at Marcus and Sarah. "Stand up." They stood, both pale. "The committee order is hereby vacated. It should never have been granted. All assets are to be immediately returned to Thomas Bennett. I'm referring this matter to Crown Counsel for criminal investigation. Mrs. Bennett, I'm notifying the Financial Planning Standards Council and IIROC. You will face professional discipline." She turned to Marcus. "You betrayed a man who raised you as his own son. You lied under oath. You conspired to steal from him. The breach of trust here is unconscionable." The gavel came down. "Mr. Bennett, you have this court's sincere apologies." Jennifer put her hand on my shoulder. "It's over, Tom. You won." Marcus approached as I was leaving. "Uncle Tom, please." "Don't," I said coldly. "Don't call me that. You lost that right." "Sarah," she convinced me. "No. You made choices. Every lie, every signature, every time you looked me in the eye and pretended to care, you chose money over family. You chose greed over the man who raised you when your parents died." Tears ran down his face. "Please, I'm sorry. I had a nephew once. He died the day you filed that petition. You're just a stranger now." I walked away. By evening, the story was everywhere. Financial planner accused of elder fraud. Nephew stole millions from uncle who raised him. Vancouver elder abuse case shocks legal community. Criminal charges came in June. Sarah was charged with fraud over $5,000, theft, forgery, and professional misconduct. Marcus was charged as an accomplice. They both pleaded guilty in September as part of a deal. Sarah got 3 years in prison. Marcus got 14 months. Both were ordered to pay restitution, though I already had most of my money back, plus the millions from Margaret. Sarah lost her CFP designation permanently. Her career was over. I sat in my restored Kitsilano house one evening in October, exactly 1 year after finding Margaret's notebook. The leaves on the trees along the street were turning gold. I had a glass of wine, Margaret's favorite Pinot Noir from the Okanagan. On my desk was a letter from Marcus, sent from prison. I opened it. "Uncle Tom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. What I did was unforgivable. Sarah manipulated me, but that's no excuse. I was weak and greedy. I destroyed everything you gave me. My parents would be ashamed. I've lost everything. My wife, my freedom, my family. But the worst thing I lost was you. I'm so sorry. I know sorry isn't enough. I hope Margaret would be proud of how you survived this. I hope you find peace, Marcus." I folded the letter slowly. I didn't cry. I'd done enough crying. The truth was, I didn't know if I could ever forgive Marcus. What he did wasn't a mistake. It was a series of calculated choices to betray me in the worst possible way. But I wasn't going to let hatred consume me. Margaret wouldn't have wanted that. I met with an estate lawyer and set up the Margaret Bennett Foundation, $10 million to start. It provides legal aid, forensic accounting, and medical evaluations for elder abuse victims. Everything I needed but couldn't afford when this started. I also established 5 full scholarships at Emily Carr University for female art and design students. Margaret had been one of the few women in digital design in the 80 seconds. I wanted to help more women follow that path. The rest, I invested conservatively. I bought a small cabin near Tofino, just a place to read and walk the beaches. I donated to cardiac research. I traveled to places Margaret and I had always talked about visiting, and I wrote everything down, every detail. So if anyone ever tries this again, there's a record of who I am and what I survived. 3 months after Marcus's letter, Sarah sent one too. I burned it without opening it. Some betrayals don't deserve a response. On what would have been our 43rd anniversary, I drove to Kitsilano Beach where Margaret had collapsed. I sat on the seawall with a photo of her. "You knew," I said to her picture. "You knew I might need that safety net someday. You were always thinking ahead, always protecting me." The waves rolled in. A container ship moved slowly across English Bay toward the harbor. "I miss you every day. But I'm okay now. Better than okay. I'm using your gift the way you'd want. Helping people. Making a difference." I touched the photo gently. I don't know if I'll ever talk to Marcus again. Part of me still loves him. But I don't trust him. Maybe I never will. And that's okay. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting someone back in to hurt you again. The sun was setting behind Vancouver Island, turning the sky orange and purple. I'm 67 now, and I'm just starting to understand what really matters. Not money, not assets. What matters is integrity, doing right even when it costs you, being honest even when lying is easier. I stood up, my knees creaking slightly. Age catches up to everyone. Thank you, Margaret, for everything, for the life we had, the love you gave me, for protecting me even after you were gone. I promise I'll make you proud. I walked back to my car as the streetlights came on along the beach. Tomorrow, I had a foundation board meeting. We were expanding services to help victims in Victoria and Kelowna. But tonight, I just sat in the quiet, listening to the ocean and thinking about the strange turns life takes. How loss can lead to discovery. How betrayal can reveal strength you didn't know you had. How even in your worst moments, if you're lucky and stubborn enough, you can find your way back to yourself. Marcus took everything from me. But in doing so, he gave me something too. Clarity. He showed me who really mattered. He taught me that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. And Margaret gave me something more valuable than money. She gave me security, independence, the power to fight back. The means not just to survive, but to help others survive too. I fell asleep that night thinking about a quote Margaret had on her studio wall from Maya Angelou. You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. I wasn't reduced. I was refined, stripped down to what really mattered and built back stronger. And that, more than any bank account or court victory, was the real win. The moon rose over English Bay, casting silver light across the water. Somewhere in a BC prison, Marcus was probably thinking about what he'd lost. But I wasn't thinking about him anymore. I was thinking about tomorrow, and all the days I had left to live with integrity, to help others, to honor Margaret's memory. I'd lost my nephew, but I'd found myself